Morning. It is still morning. May not seem like it. What can we do to make this industry look better to potential investors and to insurers? Well, one aspect, and it's an aspect that I'm heavily involved in with one of my roles with the EMEC hat on, is to chair the UK Ocean Energy National Standards Committee, is to work on standards for the industry, both domestically and internationally. And the structure of standards looks something like this. The IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, is the body that makes standards for our industry. They supervise that process. They run it through a technical committee called TC114. We just met recently in Vancouver as a total committee. 13 countries were there, including France for the first time. The technical committees set up project teams for the agreed work that will be looked at in the standards. Project teams produce the documents, which are currently called technical specifications, because it's not possible at this stage to write full standards. The National Committee ensures that there are people inputting from UK's point of view into those, providing experts and expertise into those project teams. Also, making sure that the industry tries to get some opportunity to comment on drafts when they're available and we're allowed to circulate them publicly. So the experts need a bit of support. That's what the mirror committees do, small groups of people who support our designated experts. So that's the shape of standards through the IEC. Now, what is happening is that the IEC is a two-headed monster in many ways. Apart from the standardization, which is the left side of the picture, we have the central part, which is the Conformity Assessment Board, CAB, which is all about certification and conformity to the standards that have been written. And that is done through a series of systems. That's the blue box, center slightly right. Those systems are industry sectors like electronic components and so on. The bottom one, IEC-CRE, is the renewable energy system. And renewable energy in their context includes marine, but it also includes solar and wind. That whole thing gives birth to another set of committees, I regret to say, because compliance and certification has to be kept separate from the standards making. That isn't to say that people can't participate in both sides, but the organization and management of those two sides is kept separate. So there will be a management committee, there will be an international committee, there will be national committees for this. And as you can see, underneath each, there's going to be a smaller OMC, Operational Management Committee, for each discipline, if you like. So marine energy will need a small national committee. I hope it'll be kept reasonably small. So we're getting some more complexity. We're getting need to have more experts and more effort put in. A certification scheme, if you're not familiar with what it looks like, is far more than just testing. You can see type testing along the top. That's the sort of thing that we do at EMEC. We have machines on test. We can write validation reports to independently verify their performance and so forth. But it also includes things like design assessment and evaluation of the manufacturing aspects, which is vital for building out arrays. It's not just, it's completely different to building one machine. There's got to be significant investment by the manufacturers in tooling up to be able to do that process. So that needs evaluation, that needs guidelines as well. So then you come down to a final evaluation, which gives you a type certificate. The next step, when you come to build out arrays, projects, requires a further certificate. So you get the type certificate input for the device itself, but then you need something to verify that the project design is suitable, the overall project design, and that the way in which operations and maintenance is going to be carried out is done in an open way to a set of guidelines, and people have the capability to demonstrate that they're complying with those guidelines, assuming that those guidelines represent best practice. So that's the overall system. All this seems to have come at us at a great rush. We had the first notification about there being something needed for the UK, meeting at the 30th of April. I heard the week before, and I was going to spend the whole week in between in Vancouver, so that didn't help terribly much. And we didn't get to the first meeting on the 30th of April. The next meeting's tomorrow. That's going to look at the rules, which have been drafted by the IEC, which their CAB organisation are going to ratify when? Next month. No rush then. Includes those sectors, and it culminates then in the first meeting of the International Compliance Committee in Boulder, Colorado, yeehaw, in September. I guess which date? The 18th. Very appropriate for us here. So we've got quite a bit of work to do. We've got to establish a national committee member body for the system. We've got to work in conjunction from my standards committee, PEL 114, and with the technical committees at IEC level, with the technical committees for wind and solar. We've got to establish governance, a secretariat, which BSI are going to take on initially, but they want to lose that pretty quickly because I think it's something of a conflict of interest for them as a standards-making body. So they want to send it to a trade association. So our UK, our REA, stand up and be counted if this is of interest. We need to do this. We need people to be ready to be involved in this. And I discovered very forcibly while I was at the TC 114 meeting in Vancouver that the Americans field 55 people in the area of standards in their various committees. They pay for their time, they pay for their travel and subsistence. We do not do any such thing there. So the government in America pays. Canada has a very similar arrangement. That is how they're able to be in the driving seat of doing these things. So we have a choice here. I want to use this platform to make an appeal that we should do the same. We should pay our people who are prepared to volunteer so that the burden is not placed on their companies, whether the companies are big or small. We should do that out of government to be able to match and punch our weight against the likes of the North American countries who will otherwise do it without us. So it's, do we want to be involved? Yes, I think we do. We need to show that we can do standardization, that we can do certification and compliance, because the insurance companies and the potential investors are very interested in those things. It's a sign of a maturing, serious industry, which is what we want to be. So that's the situation. We're going to be looking for volunteers and people to get involved, and we're going to be lobbying government to shell out a relatively small amount of money to leverage our influence in all these things, because we need to punch our weight. Thanks very much.